You may already know this about podcasting, but if you don't, I'll tell you. Podcasts have more weekly listeners than Netflix has total subscribers. Podcasts are growing at an exponential rate, but the amount of podcasts being launched is going down, which creates an opportunity for you. The problem is 70% of podcasts fail. I think it's more like 90%. The reason for this is a multitude of factors, but today I'm diving into what you can do to make sure this doesn't happen to you. And it really has to do with up here, right? It doesn't always have to do with the logistics and the name and the title and the brand and the colors. It has to do with the mindset, but not fluffy mindset like you're gonna find on a 60-second Instagram video. It just has to do with the decisions you're making about your podcast. So even if you never thought about creating a podcast, this is still going to be valuable because you're going to be able to see what and how successful podcasters actually do it. And we know this because we've worked with multi-platinum artists on their podcast. We've worked for business, finance, recovery, over 30 different sectors of podcasting, hundreds of thousands of downloads and millions of views online, and we have a system to do it. Today, in a few minutes, I'm just going to go through how you can do it yourself. So let's dive in with me and my friend Adam talking about how to make this happen.
All right, so 70% of podcasts fail. Walk me through how you would advise somebody getting started. How do they become one of those 30%?
Yeah, so back to that really focus, I think the first thing is you have to understand that you're going to become the person that does this. What I mean by that is that you're going to become a podcaster. So it's not that you come up with a good podcast idea and then you start recording and then you put it out and then people listen. That's just like the on paper version. In reality, it's your kid has to do this thing, has a sports event that's going to take up the whole weekend, and you're not 2 episodes ahead. So now on Friday night, you're squeezing out an episode that's not really that good. And then your editor is on vacation for 4 weeks in the middle of May. Who goes on vacation in May? That makes no sense. Like, that's real life, right? So I think people don't understand that. So first of all, podcasting is like anything. You can write your newsletter. You can have a podcast. You can run paid ads. You can learn any skill. It'll work. Right? Podcasting is just one of them. I'm biased towards it. I think it's the present and the future, right? But anyway, back to it. Where do you start? You start with what's the thing within your industry what's the opinion that you base all of your beliefs and tactics around, right? So a lot of people don't know what that is. They don't even know. They've never even answered it. If you ask your client, if you have a client, what do I do best? Like, what's my thing? You know, what's my it factor? Find somebody, I don't care if it's your mom or your client, that'll tell you that, right? And then that is the basis for starting the podcast, because the personality piece and the feeling is probably even more important than the information when you're starting, right? So I think I think people overemphasize the information piece, and they don't realize that at the end of the day, is somebody going to listen to your B2B interview show that has the same conversation as the next B2B interview show? People don't have time. Like, nobody's going to listen to that. They're watching famous YouTubers. They're watching high-level content creators. They're watching Netflix, right? Like, you're competing with all that. So, yeah, I'm more of a break the mold type of creator, where I look for how can we make this as entertaining as it is informative. And honestly, if you had to pick one, I would choose entertaining. Just because there's a lot of general educational content out there around these subjects, but how can we add an entertainment piece or an entertainment value through our personality, instead of trying to change our personality to be like a content creator we saw who we're trying to copy, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people copy creators, and they copy creators that aren't even that good. So it's like, the thing that you're copying is the thing that you're going to become from that is not even a version of a copy. Each version of a copy decreases in quality, right? So I'm not saying don't emulate. You have to emulate. When I started making music, I listened to Action Bronson, Joey Badass. Like, I listened to Pro Era, Flatbush Zombies. Those are my influences. So I rapped like them. I made music like them. I made beats like them. But then eventually, same thing with podcasts. I saw Rogan, and I'm like, I'm Rogan. 5 years later, no, I'm not. Right? Like I'm still not Rogan. I'll never be Rogan. So yeah, I think that's where the beginner creator, the beginner podcaster has to start. Like, what's my little angle? What's my little niche? If you want to take over the world, great. But Mr. Beast didn't set out to take over YouTube. He didn't. He literally, if you go back to his videos, he made like Ray William Johnson type videos, and that's a callback to old YouTube. If anybody knows who that.
I was just gonna ask, who is that?
Yeah, Ray William Johnson is one of the